What you're looking at is the bobbin from a 175 kilohertz IF that's been rewound. Here's the wire. Let's see if we can get this in the frame. Here's the wire from just one side. All right. Now this is very dangerous after you build an IF can to have it sitting out and hooking connections to it that could cut the wire. It's really a pain. Now this is a 205 turns on each coil. On the other side of this bobbin is a 150 picofarad variable capacitor. It's very fast for this frequency. All right, got to remember that 150 picofarad caps that are on that bobbin were meant for 175 kilohertz IF. So I knew they were 150s. I measured them when they were closed, and then I took 130 and put that 130 picofarads and put that in Professor Coy. It's an online program, and you put in the frequency you want, the capacitance, and it'll tell you the amount of inductance. And you also have to put the diameter of the bobbin that you're going to wind on. You have to put the width of the coil you're going to wind, and it does all the figuring so you get the right amount of inductance. Okay, so we now have, hopefully, I have to put 4 wires on there. I got to be very careful until I get this thing back in the can. Now, this is my equipment here. Hopefully the camera's at the right angle here. Okay, I come into the with my frequency counter right into the HP oscillator that's running about 916 kilohertz. You know, it's close enough. So anyway, and it goes direct in, so it's reading whatever this is set at. You can't go by the dial. Okay, you want to be more accurate. So I got a frequency counter. Then out of the high side of the oscillator, I have a scope probe, and it's set at times 10, and that comes over and that drives one side of the coil. Okay, let's get the coil back in the frame here. All right, now I also have, I want to show you, I got a wall frequency here. Let me give you, here's my scope down here, and let me show you when you hit resonance. Okay, see it peaking up? Okay. All right, that's that. Yeah, I'm very nervous having that IF transformer. It was, I ended up winding it with the wire that came off of it. The Litz wire I have was too thick, and it got too big. At 100 turns, it was too big to manage winding it. And I wound both those coils. They're approximately a ½ inch apart. I did everything I could to make a 915 kilohertz IF can. Okay, we're almost there. I just have to add 4 wires and put it back in the can. All right, and I say all right and an okay a lot. I'm sorry, like that one guy says, you say okay too many times, and that's just the way it is. Oh, I love my camera. It's such a pain. You know, right now it's nighttime, and I'm using just this little tiny light. And I just want to show you, at this point, the coil's finished. I made sure I could adjust the capacitor below 915 on each side and above 915. You got to have a little leeway because it's going to go in a metal can, and hopefully it can be tuned to 915 kilohertz when it's in the can. See, if you go looking on IF can information on the internet, it's very vague. It's the same article over and over. People read it and then they re-spout it out, redraw it out, retype it out. But I want to tell you, the old IF cans, I showed you the insides. They're beautiful. All right. This would be considered a crappy IF can because the really good ones have slugs, and you can turn the slug of the inductance in. You can also do, with the slugs, you could shift the IF over. One IF to one direction, the next IF the other way. There's all kinds of tricks you can do to align the set so it's more narrow. All right, but this IF is just strictly, you can peak it for the frequency. Now, as IFs went along, they got even crappier than this one. Both coils can be tuned to 915. Well, on the cheaper versions, they only have one side that's tunable. All right. Now, the really good ones, the final, like the IF can 4, in this case, or IF can 3, will have, both coils will tune to the frequency, whether it's 455, 915, 85 kilohertz. But the last IF can will have a low capacitance and more turns of the coil, and on the opposite side, the next coil over, it has the coil with less turns and more capacitance. But both sides tune to the frequency, but they do it because they want more turns of wire on the detector side, and that's to get higher impedance into the detector. A good place to start, if you really want to understand, is go look at the BC348. It would be an O version. Go look at the 4th IF can. That's what I'm building here. And notice the values. And then scroll up the screen and look at the IF can 3 and 2. Those are both sides are the same amount of resistance and the same frequency. All right. And then the 4th one, it has the same frequency on both sides, which would be 915 kilohertz. But notice the resistance value and the capacitance value. Okay, they really did something special there, and that's because they wanted the side that goes to the detector to be higher impedance. And that's they did all these tricks because the earlier tubes didn't have as much gain as the more modern ones. So the IF can is a passive component. Any energy you put into the coil, it gets lost in the coil through the transfer. Remember I told you the first IF can, the coils are very close together. And then as you go up in the IFs, there's more amplification. The coils get further apart, and that gives you more selectivity. And you could spend days reading up on IF cans, and you still won't be an IF engineer. Okay, these guys, they must have been real nerds with their little pocket protectors and their slide rules. I can just imagine the arguments they had over making the better IF can. But as time went on, they got crappier and crappier and crappier until you get not a Collins radio. Oh man, a Hallicrafters. Okay, their IF cans and their final radios were like ones out of a car radio or a cheap table radio. All 3 or 4 IF cans, I should say just 3, 2 or 3, were just the same old 455s, tired IF cans. That's because the tubes got more gain, and they could start playing the let's save money tricks. Okay, but that's why some older radios are really better built. And then you'll turn it on late at night, and you'll get this AM station really far away, and then you turn on a modern radio, and it can't pick it up. That's because these guys were squeaking out every possible microvolt that they could of signal. Okay, that's the way it went. And then as time went on, they realized the public's kind of stupid. Okay, and I'm saying okay again. But anyway, that's what happened. And my IF can that I built is in between the good ones and the real crappy ones. Both sides are tuned on mine, and it's no easy feat to wind a coil like that. Now that coil is wound scattered winding. It's not wave, it's scattered. You wind it back and forth, not one winding next to each other. You wind it, each turn is about, say, a 1/16 apart as you wind back and forth. It's almost like a wave. Now, you got the guys that show you how to make an IF can, and they use cardboard, let's call them washers, and they drop them in there, and then they tell you to spin it on a lathe or on a drill, and then put your wire in there. Well, that every time you wind the wire right next to itself, it's called solenoid winding, and the capacitance between each winding gets involved in the coil. And it might not affect the frequency peak, but your Q of your coil goes down. You don't get as good a Q. That's why if your windings are wave wound, you have less capacitance between each turn, and the coil will really resonate really good. You really don't need that anymore. As time went on, the tubes or the transistors became more sensitive, more gain, and you didn't need to do all these tricks. But that's why if you're dealing with a crystal radio set, you want some type of toroid coil in there. I've showed you that. Or you want a basket weave coil, or you want a wave wound coil. And that's so you get the maximum amount of signal because of Q to your headphones. And then you got a good set of headphones. Good ground, good antenna, you have a good crystal set. Now 90% of the crystal sets that people build on the internet are total garbage. You know, they're happy. I got 3 stations. Oh, when you build a really good one, like that one I did with the toroid coils, that circuit I recommend, you get all kinds of skip at night. You get up late at night, which I do to get up to pee. You come over and you tune that radio around, and I only have 2 local stations that cut back their power. So all the stations I pick up, every one of them is out of state. I just want to show you my coil. Got it done. The radio is really bodged. I'm going to tell you, it's really making me dislike the hobby. I think that's it. All right, that's it.